Today's book is Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree, written by Richard Wagner, illustrated by Sidney Kruger, and read by Richard Wagner.
Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Wagner, and I am so excited to share with you today my book, Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree. Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree is based upon a true story from when I was very young. A friend of the family delivered to our home a small tree for Christmas. But we already had a tree. That little tree ended up sitting all by itself outside during the holidays, alone and forgotten. I felt very sorry for that little tree, and I never forgot it. This book is in honor of that tree and is a story about what might have been. So now, let's discover the story of Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree by Richard Wagner, that's me, and illustrated by the very talented Sidney Kruger. It was a new day at the Christmas tree farm. As the sun rose, the warmth of its rays washed over the branches of the soon-to-be Christmas trees standing in the tree farm. All of the trees enjoyed the warmth of the sun, especially a little tree named Needles. Needles was a proud tree, and like all of the other trees at the farm, he looked forward to the day he would be taken home by a family to become a Christmas tree. But the other trees would laugh when Needles talked about becoming a Christmas tree. Needles was not as big as the other trees, and he didn't have as many branches. The other trees would tell him that he was too small and nobody would want him. This frightened Needles. What would happen if no one brought him home for Christmas? As the sun rose higher in the sky, Needles suddenly remembered that this was no ordinary day. It was the day the trees on the farm were to be taken away to become Christmas trees. He was so excited, but the other trees still laughed at him. Soon, the tree farm workers came along and began to cut down the trees and prepare them for the journey to the Christmas tree lot. All of the trees were so happy to start their journey to become Christmas trees. When the trees arrived at the lot, a metal stand was nailed to the bottom of each tree so they could stand upright for the customers to look at. Needles was placed amongst the other trees, but none of them wanted to stand next to him. They were large, beautiful trees and did not want to associate with a small tree like him. This made Needles very sad, but he was going to try and look his best when customers arrived. Soon, people were walking amongst the trees, looking at each one. There were moms and dads and lots of kids. Needles stood straight with his branches strong and stiff, looking as proud as he could. Lots of families looked at him, but they all said he was too short or that he didn't have enough branches. The other trees were being bought and taken away, but not Needles. This went on for 10 days. At the end of the 10th day, Needles was the only tree left in the lot. Needles was scared. All of the other trees had homes for Christmas and were now beautiful Christmas trees. Needles stood in the lot, alone and forgotten. However, Needles kept telling himself that he would be somebody's Christmas tree, and he refused to give up hope. Then he heard the tree lot owner tell his worker that he owed a favor to a friend and was going to give him the last tree. Needles couldn't believe what he had heard. He was going to get a home and become a Christmas tree. Christmas would be wonderful. The lot worker loaded Needles onto a truck and drove to the friend's house. He unloaded Needles and carried him to the front door and knocked. Nobody was home. So he left Needles with a note saying the tree was from their friend and then drove away. Needles was overjoyed. He couldn't wait for the family who lived there to come home and find him, their Christmas tree. When the family came home and saw Needles at the front door, they did not seem overly excited. Needles didn't understand what was wrong. Did they think he was too small or too ugly? The mother read the note the worker had left. She told her family that the tree was given to them by their friend, the tree lot owner. The little daughter then said, "But Mommy, we already have a Christmas tree." The front door was open and Needles could see a beautiful, tall, decorated Christmas tree standing inside. He was crushed. The father said he would set the new tree aside and see if he could find someone who needed a tree, although it wasn't a very good-looking tree. With that, he picked up Needles and took him to the side yard, set him down, and went back inside the house. Needles was all alone. His dream of being a beautiful Christmas tree for a family was becoming just that, only a dream. Would he be forgotten and dry up and turn brown, never to be decorated? Needles told himself, no, he would not be forgotten, and he would not give up hope. Over the next several days, friends of the family came by to look at Needles to see about taking him home to be their Christmas tree. Each time he tried to look tall and shiny, but each time the people said he was too short or did not have enough branches. Finally, people stopped coming by to look. 2 days before Christmas, the father took Needles out to the street, set him down on the curb, placed a sign in front of him that read, "Free tree," and left him there. Many cars drove by, and some even stopped to look, but nobody seemed to want Needles. Alone and forgotten, Needles thought about giving up his hope of becoming a Christmas tree and bringing joy to others. Yet again, he said to himself that he would never give up. Late in the afternoon on Christmas Eve, a little girl named Emily left her doctor's office with her mother. Emily was unable to walk due to a severe illness, and she had been to see the doctor for a checkup. This year, Emily's parents could not afford to buy a Christmas tree. Still, Emily hoped for a tree to make Christmas special. As they drove home, Emily suddenly yelled, "Mommy, look!" There, on the side of the road, stood a small Christmas tree with a sign reading, "Free tree." Emily's mother pulled over, got out, and walked over to the tree. Needles saw the car pull over and watched a woman get out and walk up to him. With all the energy he had left, he stood strong and firm and tall. She looked him over and turned to a small girl in the car and said, "Emily, it's not much of a tree. Do you want it?" Emily exclaimed, "It's the most beautiful tree I have ever seen. Yes, please, let's take it home and decorate it." Needles was stunned. "Really? Me? Home? Decorate?" Emily's mother picked Needles up and gently tied him to the roof of the car. The drive home was short. Once there, he was taken into their home and placed in a room in front of a window looking out to the street. Emily came into the house in her wheelchair and was pushed by her mom right up to Needles. Emily said to her mom, "This tree is the perfect size. It's not too tall for me, and there aren't too many branches. I can reach almost everything, but what should we decorate it with?" Her mother told her to find all of the pretty items in her room that were most precious to her to share with the baby Jesus for Christmas and hang those on the tree. Her mother then found a string of colored lights to wrap around the tree. First, the lights went on. Then Emily hung all of her precious pretty ornaments. Finally, they were done. They switched on the lights, and Emily squealed with delight. "It is beautiful," she exclaimed. Needles could hardly believe that he was now a real Christmas tree. There were lights and beautiful ornaments hanging on his branches. He realized that Emily had hung on him all of her most prized ornaments to share for Christmas. He was determined to be as tall and straight and as shiny as he could be, for that was all that he had to give. Emily sat next to her mom and looked at Needles with a big smile. He looked back at her, looking tall and strong. In that moment, a little girl and a small tree had their hopes fulfilled. Each had brought to the other the happiness, delight, beauty, and warmth of sharing all that they had. And with that, they would share the glory of Christmas. A family out for an evening walk stopped in front of Emily's house. "What a beautiful tree they have this year," the wife said softly. They all looked at the Christmas tree in the window and smiled. Needles saw the joy in their faces, and he quietly said to himself, "I didn't give up." I hope you enjoyed learning about needles. Here are some questions that you might think about and discuss with your class. First, why was Needles so determined to never give up? And why is that important? Second, what were Needles' hopes and dreams? And do each one of you have hopes and dreams as well? And third, why do you think that Needles and Emily sharing all that they had with each other made them happy? Thank you so much for reading with me today. This was a lot of fun. You all take care. Bye.